Okay, how do I look with these glasses? Intelligent, I hope. So, Necrons have a fortification, and today we're going to do a Convergence of Dominion review! And it's coming right up.
Necrons!
Nick speaking, and welcome to this video. And if you're new to the channel and you want to learn about Necrons and more, then please subscribe and turn on all notifications so you don't miss an upload. Okay, so today we are looking at the Convergence of Dominion, the Necron Fortification, the Star Stills, which I'm going to be calling Necron Stones in this video. A very cool looking unit. However, what about the rules? Let's find out. Oh, and press like if you think my new varifocal glasses suit me. So this new Necron Fortification is quite well matched to the rules of 9th edition. You've got the Fortification Network, which allows you to take up to 3 different fortifications. The Convergence of Dominion entry basically gives you 3 stones for 1 choice. So for 3 fortifications you could have up to 9 stones. God, I haven't got my Necron sign up. Fear does not exist in this Necron tomb world, does it, Nick?
No, Sensei!
Now, when you take a unit of these 3 stones and you deploy them, they then become 3 separate units. However, they've got to be deployed wholly within 12 inches of each other, which basically means the stones are going to be 9 inches apart from each other. The stones themselves are 3 inches wide, so in total, if you put them in a long line, you'll be covering 27 inches in total from the outer edge of one stone to the outer edge of the other one on the other side of the table. Now, once deployed, they can't move. They do have the ability to teleport, which we'll talk more about later, but there is no movement stats line. There's also no weapon skill stats line, so in close combat, they can't fight. Apologies for the blocked up nose. I was doing a lot of super gluing last night of miniatures, and it's really affected my nose. It does have a ballistic skill though, ballistic skill 3, which does degrade as it takes wounds, so ballistic skill 4 when it gets to half wounds, and it has 10 wounds. The stones have no leadership, they also have no attacks. However, they do have a strength. Not quite sure why they've got a strength there, but they do. Strength 6. Each stone has a 3+ save and is toughness 8. Now, as they take wounds, the only thing which degrades is that ballistic skill. So, yeah, toughness 8, 10 wounds, and a 3+ save. Pretty good stats for a unit that only costs 120 points. So that's just 40 points per stone. That's actually pretty cheap. Now, of course, we need to look at more of the stats. However, I just want to point out here that a lot of people are saying that 120 points would be better spent elsewhere rather than this unit. However, I just want to get you thinking about this for a second. You could take 3 of these for 120 points. That will give you 30 wounds on toughness 8 with a 3+ save for 120 points. You can't spend 120 points anywhere in the Codex and get those type of stats. Just bear that in mind. Of course, most units are judged on what they can kill, so let's have a look at their guns, the Transdimensional Abductors. So these guns are actually quite short in range. They're only 12 inches, which, considering the unit doesn't move, well, not naturally anyway, we can teleport them, which we'll talk more about in a minute, but yeah, 12 inches. The amount of shots is random, so it's D3 shots, and they're only strength 4. They do have decent AP, -3 AP, and they do a fixed 3 damage, which is very nice. However, yeah, random shots, a D3, and just strength 4. These guns, they're not that great. So, what other abilities do they have? Well, of course they have living metal, so they can regain wounds, and they have command protocols. they also have an aura ability. Dominion protocols. Any core units within 6 inches of one of these stones get an extra 2 to their leadership, which, well, isn't that great really, to be fair. I mean, it might help occasionally, but very rarely do I have leadership issues with Necrons. However, they do have the Dynastic Command Node ability, which basically means they act like a character when it comes to command protocols. So you don't have to have a character within 6 inches of a unit with command protocols. You can basically use one of these stones instead, so you can spread your command protocols around a little bit easier. But as we previously discussed, it's very difficult to actually make command protocols work. These could be the answer. However, it's very situational, and I think you have to build your list around the command protocols to actually take advantage of it. So this isn't really that impressive. And of course, you still need a noble character to unlock the command protocols as well. So again, there's still lots of hoops to go through. Okay, so let's talk about teleporting these stones, which is done with an action, and it's done by a cryptek. And the cryptek has to be within 3 inches of a stone. Now, it's done at the end of the movement phase, so you do have the ability to move. I haven't got my glasses on. It's done at the end of the movements phase, which does mean that you have the ability to move the cryptek before you make the action. You then declare the action, and then at the end of your turn you remove one of those star stills. It does say any star still, so assume not just the one that the cryptek is within range, but any one of those units you can move off the table into a reinforcements. The stone then comes back on the table in the reinforcements stage of your next turn, and then you have to be more than 9 inches away from an enemy. So you can start to teleport these stones around the table. It's quite a slow process, but you can do it. And of course, the great thing about it is that the stone is put in to tactical reserve, protecting it from being shot. Of course, your opponent does have the ability to move his units, maybe to stop you coming down in a certain area, but at least it gives them something to think about whilst it's in reserve. Now, they do have the Dynasty Code keyword as well, so of course you could benefit from some of those Dynasty abilities, maybe even making the gun slightly better. Now, when you teleport them, you could teleport them onto an objective. However, of course, being a fortification, they can't take objectives. Unless, of course, you use the Dynasty Code to make them objective secure. However, if you place them on an objective, you know your enemy is going to come to that objective, which means your very short 12-inch guns are going to get in range. So they definitely have a few tactical options, and being a building, of course, means we can hide our other models behind them. So let's have a look and see exactly what we can hide behind them. Okay, so when we deploy these, we could deploy them right next to each other like so, and of course that's going to block line of sight to pretty much anything that we put behind there if we want to protect something on turn 1. It's worth noting these are also over 5 inches tall. Now, if we're going to deploy them spread out, of course, we've then got a much smaller thing to hide something behind. So what can we hide behind there? Well, my instant thought is the reanimator, because the reanimator currently has a lot of problems. Although it's come down in points, it's still very, very easy to kill. We can actually hide the reanimator behind one of these star stills. However, the main issue that we've got is it's only out of line of sight if you're directly facing the stone. So if your enemy moves to the side slightly, you're going to be able to target the reanimator. You could potentially have 2 of these together and move the reanimator in the middle. That would stop that happening, but now you're investing quite a few points in just protecting the reanimator. Now, maybe the star still has the same job as the reanimator in that if you're taking them, then your enemy is going to be shooting at these and not your other valuable units. doesn't really work with the reanimator because it's just so easy to kill with the toughness that it has. And that is the advantage of these stones here, that they are toughness 8. And that means they are definitely more difficult to kill. Your opponent probably isn't going to be shooting at these with strength 4 guns. They're going to put some more meatier, bigger guns into them. And if they are shooting these, then they're not shooting the rest of your army, which is obviously very useful. Now, potentially your opponents may take Bring It Down for their secondary objectives, which has been a bit of an issue with these. However, now with the new update, Bring It Down isn't quite as bad. You don't give quite as many points away. The other option, of course, is to use these for blocking areas of the board to stop your opponent from obviously moving through those areas, because as they're classed as buildings, you can't move through them. So you could use them in that way as well. So these stones can do things at the beginning of the game. They can block some of your valuable units. They are a little bit of a defensive unit in that if your opponent gets close, well, they do have that -3 and 3 damage, albeit limited shots and only strength 4. They have the option to teleport, so during the game you can start to move these in different areas of the table, which again could be quite annoying for your opponent, and they could be quite distracting to your opponent. And like I said, each one of these is only 40 points. Now, I've heard a lot of people don't like the broken down stones, they prefer them intact, which I can understand. My concern was the broken down one wasn't going to be able to hide units as well. However, as you can see there, it hides it just as well as the non-broken one. So yeah, definitely options. Now, it's fair to say that this set of fortification certainly has the rule of cool. I mean, these look awesome. I'm loving them, and that's why it was one of the first units I decided to paint out of all of the releases of the new models. They just look super cool. And I think that's one thing to bear in mind, is sometimes just playing the model because you like the model is the key thing. They may not be the optimum units for the 120 points that you're paying for them, but, well, they can bring something to your army, and if you use them in the right way, they could be quite useful. Like I said, 120 points for 30 wounds, toughness 8 and a 3+ save. That's not bad, but what do you think? Let me know in the comments box below. Now, if you want to see some of my other Necron tactical videos, I'll link you up to them for you to watch next.